Welcome to the best of first-person episodes from Phantoms and Monsters. Please like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you'll be notified of all future uploads.
Wing being in military personnel reported in Lexington, Illinois. My wife and I moved to Lexington, Illinois in April 2016. During that first summer here, we heard a lot of stories from residents that we talked to. Back on January 27, 2018, I wasn't sleeping well because the local coyote pack was getting riled up about something. They were extremely vocal that night. I'm usually a deep sleeper, but they woke me up with their incessant yipping, barking and howling. It sounded like a hunt was on. I got up and decided to use the bathroom, after I did a quick check outside from our windows. While in there I heard what could be like to an animal-like screech like the ROS from the Princess Bride film, and a really deep bass woo-woo. I thought it was odd. So I looked out our bathroom window and saw a large shadow pass under a streetlight about 30 feet from our place. It did it a couple times before a creature, like witness from Wilmington, Illinois described, landed. It made no sound when it flared its wings when it landed in a tree not more than 10 feet from our place. A local creek is about 60 to 70 feet away from our place, and about the same distance from the tree this being was perched in. It walked with a kind of hop. The feet had a splayed three-clawed foot, with digits like a sloth. I did not get a good look at the torso or how its arms and grasping digits looked, but the way it landed it looked like it had paws, but I'm not sure. I never got a good look at the head. I observed it for a few minutes before it made that unnerving screech-hoot sound about 4 times before it just glided out of the tree towards the creek, in the south-southwest direction of the Mackinac River. The coyotes started up again with their noise, but it sounded like they were following it. I don't think it knew it was being observed. It was more unnerving than the times a Bigfoot made visits to my family's property when I was young, or the night when something literally destroyed 2 of our mares. I remember enough of that night sometimes to actually have nightmares. But not this thing. It just unnerved me. But one thing I did notice was the stench of blood in the air. I don't know if you've been hunting, but that blood smell when you are field dressing a deer or antelope, that was the smell it left behind. This occurred between 2:30 a.m. and 2:45 a.m. on 1/27/18. The Wilmington, Illinois witness reported helicopter activity in my area that ramps up in the late fall early winter, between 11 p.m. and 1:45 a.m. It quits and starts up again at around 2:45 a.m. until around 4 a.m. One night I was out for a quick walk and heard an odd chopper sound. It sounded like a Black Hawk but really weird, like it had baffling on, but the chop of the blades is unmistakable. That night there was a clear enough sky for a full moon. I saw the silhouette, but the tail section was shaped like the rear tail of the cancelled Comanche helicopter. It flew over the cornfields and little forest area nearby and the Mackinac River for hours, back and forth. One night in November 2016, I got curious enough to try out my night vision camera. I waited for the chopper to come, right like clockwork it began its route in a 5x5 search pattern. Through the lens I seen 2 domes under the fuselage, by the cockpit. To my eye not glued to my eyepiece, one was emitting a rather powerful searchlight, but it was concentrated on the river area. It banked north and came close by our place. I seen a brightness emitting from the other dome. I couldn't see it with my naked eye, but it was there on screen. It overloaded the optics on my camera, also the video that I recorded on the flash drive was corrupted and not retrievable. The battery supply burst and the main board was toast. That same night around 2:30 a.m. 3 a.m. I was woken up by the sound of diesel engines, but not semi-diesel. I looked out on P.J. Keller Highway, and there was a small convoy of 3 MRAPs, 4 Hummers, and 5 M8TV. A couple Hummers had that new 50 cal minigun mounted. The rest had either the M2 or M240 mounted. They all looked like they were primer gray colored. They stopped at intervals on either side of the small bridge 50 foot away. Troops dismounted from the MRAP and M8TV. They had rifles and strange body armor. They kept the lights on the vehicles on. I took out my field spotter glasses, and got a better low OK number fast entry helmets, balaclavas, 4-eye night vision sets. Dull finished metallic looking body armor. Vest, arms, legs and curiously neck. They all carried combat sabers, and either FN 2000 rifles, or rifles that looked like the XM 25, 26 or 27 prototypes. A team of 3 went into the woods off to the right of the road. If you were headed west, by the cemetery. They were gone about 10 minutes, when a couple shots rang out, and all the troops came out of the woods in a hurry, got in the vehicles and took off. The helicopter flyovers stopped until this past August. It's like clockwork, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. 11 p.m. to 12:45 a.m. and 2:30 a.m. to 4 a.m. Currently one is flying over as I type this. 1:31/2018 12:30 a.m. I prefer to remain anonymous for now. I worked as a civilian independent contractor in the Dakotas for about 8 years. Advised in the Golden Coyote exercises in the Black Hills of South Dakota and the bombing range recovery in the Badlands of South Dakota. I grew up in a military family, all branches, been around military vehicles since I could remember. I couldn't join because of a health problem they detected.
Large wing being encountered in western Kentucky. About 10 years ago, my ex-husband and I were visiting friends and the guys left to go rent some movies from a local video store. We live in a small town surrounded by other small neighboring towns in western Kentucky. Lots of wooded areas and lots of country roads, not a lot of big city action. Street lights are on most roads, but not the back roads. My friend's husband Zach and my ex-husband Josh decided to hit a back road so Zach could show Josh a house he had been helping build. I am familiar with the road they were on because my grandparents live off it. It's a very long road, probably 20 miles from start to finish. A childhood friend of mine lived directly on this road, so I grew up in these woods and have had some strange stories from down there. It's not like people talk about this place being haunted or anything paranormal. I just had experienced weirdness myself as a kid. Mostly I chalk my stories up to being young and impressionable. Anyway, the guys were talking about the house and hanging out when they got to a part of the road that is somewhat curved. At that point, off the side of the road, stood a figure that my ex said had to be 7 foot tall. They were in a Dodge Neon, so he said maybe he could have mistaken its height because they were sitting low. But it towered over the vehicle. Neither of them said a word to each other until they had passed the figure. After they passed, another car was coming, and that car hit their brakes, which led the guys to believe that car had seen it as well. Zach pulls into the next available place to turn around, and that's when they both started talking and freaking out. Did you see that? What was that? They turned around and drove back, but nothing was there. They stopped the car and got flashlights out, no street lights. The only light had been their headlights. They hurried back to the house, and when they came inside, both were very quiet. I was like, what's up with you guys? Each kept saying for the other to tell us. They tell us the story of what they had witnessed, but with no description. So me and my friend separated the guys and asked them to draw what they saw. Basically it was the same thing, only one of them drew half of it, and the other drew the entire figure. Both had the center as being black except red where the eyes are. Josh described that it didn't appear to have feet, and it was floating. Zach said he didn't remember if he looked at the feet because he was so taken back by the giant wings. The wings they both drew and said were white at the top, then faded to yellow, then red. The craziest part to me was that both guys said that it wasn't flapping the wings up and down, but that it was flapping them in towards the center body and then back out. My ex and I would talk about this in great lengths for years. Zach had since been in an accident and suffered a traumatic brain injury. He was alone on his motorcycle, and the eyewitness said he seemed to have just drove off the side of the road like something ran in front of him. But he is no longer able to communicate to be able to tell anyone what happened to him that night. But it's always made me wonder if he saw that creature again, or if it was some sort of warning for what was to come. Drew.
Winged humanoid encounter in Morehouse, Parish, Louisiana. I've never told anyone this or talked about it to anyone besides the people that were with me that night and my best friend, who claims to have seen him at a different date that I didn't know about until I described my experience to him. I lived in a small town, Bastrop, Louisiana, with my cousin and his wife. There's not much to do in Morehouse Parish besides drive back roads like we've done thousands of times before. Then one night in 2015 we were leaving a church we used to clean. It was around 2 a.m. or so. We were in my cousin's 1990 GMC Sierra single cab 4x4, and we decided to ride back roads. So we're cruising, he and I are talking and listening to Nirvana, probably we played music together. But anyway, his wife was asleep in the middle seat when we turned on a paved road 5 miles or so outside of town and come around a curve, and there it was. Something we had never seen before. I'm an avid hunter, been in the woods all hours of the night and day. I was in the army, but had never been more freaked out by something than what we witnessed. There was something dead in the road and something was eating it when the headlights hit it. It looked up, was about 2.5 to 3 foot tall, like it was kneeling over whatever it was eating, had red eyes, and it stood up so fast seemed like a millisecond, was 7 or 8 feet tall. Was pitch black, its skin looked like a bat skin, but way darker. In one fell swoop it leapt and its wings opened and flew into the woods on the side of the road. It had to be moving over 50 miles per hour, freaking wildest experience of my life. And I've always been cynical when it comes to paranormal stuff, but I know what I saw that night, and so does my cousin. Big S.
Enormous black-winged cryptid observed in Tukwila, Washington. I have a story to share which to this very day still makes me shrink on the inside, wanting to become very small. It only lasted about 2 to 3 minutes, yet this short event filled me with a heavy dark feeling of the ultimate ending of my existence. I have only shared this with maybe a single handful of people. Even then they give me that look of oh, whatever, with a sideways grin, that familiar reaction. About myself, I'm 60 years old now and beginning to understand that if I don't share my experiences, well, someday it will go to the grave with me. Then no one will have heard them. So at this time of my life, ridicule is not a fear anymore. Believe my story or not, this is not my concern. My story starts as follows. I was walking to work to begin my night shift at a manufacturing company. The shift started at 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. I lived about 4 blocks from work, so I walked all the time. I would leave home at about 5 p.m., take my time and enjoy the walk. The walking path I followed ran along the Green River. I was just starting on the head of the path with a slight downward incline. It was spring, warm, clear with no wind, just a very beautiful day. As I was looking ahead, something dark caught my attention from my right and slightly high above the tree line, and towards the shopping mall, which was about 2 blocks in that direction. I just slightly turned my head to see. Now what I saw was giving me a right profile of it. It was a very black thing, humanoid-like. It had wings, black, with legs. It was in a bird of prey position, just when they were about to grab their prey. I turned my attention forward and was hit with a feeling of fear and dread, like I was a field mouse in an open area. Now my mind is telling me that it was a black bird swooping down. Yet another part is saying, what the bleep? So I turned my head right again to see. There it was in the same spot, it hadn't moved. It looked like a bird, but with legs and arms held slightly out from its body. And with what looked like a head not like a bird at all. And wings back in the position a bird of prey would have them when swooping down. Now my mind is trying to take in all this information. And it is not going well. Warning signals going off like crazy in my mind, telling me to move slow and quietly. At the same time, I'm beginning to realize that this thing is hovering in the direction of the shopping mall and kind of above it. Now wait. That's 2 blocks away. How can I see this in any detail? It's over there a far enough distance I should not even be able to see it. Other than a black spot. Yet I can. At least enough to see that what I'm seeing shouldn't be. I'm beginning to understand that it must be large. I mean really, right? 2 blocks away, yet large enough for me to see the shape definition. No detail, just shape. I shift my gaze forward to gauge how much farther and to climb down this incline and out of visual. Not far, maybe 50 feet. I decided to look again just to see. And of course it's still in the same position, but giving off that feeling of pure dread. I had no desire to stop and look, all I cared about was get to work full. So after the 3rd look I just focused on getting to the location of not being seen or seeing it. I made it to work ahead of time, of course. Still feeling scared. Later in the shift I shared it with a coworker and received laughter. So I shut up and didn't talk about this for many years. Over the years I have tried to grasp what I had seen. I really don't know. Maybe I don't need to know. Yet even to this very day when I think about this, the feeling of fear is present. I just have this strong feeling that what I had seen was not known. Now there is a short incident that happened about 3 or 4 months later. I believe that it was around the first part of July. It was around 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I was walking in the parking lot of the shopping mall. Yes, the same one. I was about halfway across the parking lot, which is quite large. I had my headphones in, listening to music. All of a sudden I had a feeling that something was flying above me. I mean, I actually ducked down thinking something was going over me. At the same time that this occurred, I saw a shadow pass over me. And it was shaped like a very large bird. I mean, I could tell it was a wing. End to end, maybe 20 feet. Just a poor guess at best. I immediately stopped and looked up. There was nothing in the sky except for a few high and thin white clouds. I looked to see if it was a plane. Nope. I did a complete 360 looking up, nothing. So I beat my feet to the entrance. Once again having that feeling of being a field mouse out in the open. So, I have no idea what I saw those 2 different times. But I think they may have been related. Whatever it was, I know the feeling that being seen is not going to be good. Well, that about covers that subject. Take it for what it's worth. Thank you for your time and allowing me to share. Final thought. I've noticed that people who have had strange encounters seem to be able to check a few boxes off in the cryptid or paranormal, or even UFO categories. I know I can check a few of those boxes off myself. And all are in the category of I just don't know. Sincerely, CC.
This is Lon Strickler. If you like this program, it would help us if you would give it a thumbs up. Then subscribe and click the bell icon so you get notification when we upload new first-person encounters. We have many more to come very soon. And by the way, if you have a suggestion or an experience of your own, please leave a comment.